completely lucid memory of the first time I heard Steve's music. I was laying on my back in a dance class. There was Music for 18. And I thought, what is that?
It was a CD that my parents had. It was something that we had in the house. But I remember the first time I heard it, I thought, this is a really major thing. I just sort of completely changed my sense of how music was organized, how music sounded. It's the sense of visible process. I think the visible process is the main thing that I really took away as a young composer.
It's just this beautiful, elegant architecture. He wants you to see with structure. You know, you don't have to kind of like get out your notebook and do some math. You just, there it is. In the phase piece of Steve Reich, as you can just hear, they start together and then they go off. You know, it's that moment where they start going off and you hear the phase beginning that's so confusing and so beautiful.
It's thrilling music because you can see what's going to happen. I mean, it feels like watching an iceberg go into another one or something. There's a sense of inevitability, but also of drama.
It began, I mean, Steve really found support through working with choreographers and connecting with visual artists.
He has done all these different things, and it's not all iconoclastic. A lot of it's fun, and a lot of it is really, really serious, and a lot of it is really devout.
I think that's another very interesting thing he did, was musicalizing speech, hearing the pitch in everyday speech.
And he said, don't breathe.
It's also interesting when I think about how far his influence actually goes, and it's to my friends who are not musicians at all, who think about architecture, or to my friends who make rock music.
It's part of the language of today, in film music, and ambient music, and rock music. Steve Reich was one of the pioneers that got the machete out and carved a path, and then there's a path over there.
You know, when you're younger, you're just sort of following your inclinations, which are very powerful when you're young. It just seemed that the area of returning to regular pulse, harmonic clarity, and a very keen interest in very simple imitative counterpoint seemed to be very firm ground. One of the points of having this series at Carnegie called 3 Generations is that when I went to music school, there really was one way of writing music, 12-tone serial music. And it fell to my generation, I mean myself, Riley, John Adams, and Glass, and unbeknownst to us at the time, Arvo Pärt, to just not accept us because they just didn't feel it, and they just couldn't spend their lives doing that. One of the first groups to emerge 20 years younger was the Bang on the Can group. And they were not doing what we did, but they were looking at this group of people as their touchstone for how to move on. 20 years later, I began to realize there's a whole new generation of people in their late 20s, early 30s, who I think have just, in a sense, verified the musical foundations with which my generation began. But they're thickening the plot. They're thickening the plot a whole lot, which is exactly what should happen.
As a tribute to who he is, I think, as a person in the community, he's reaching out to that next generation, not just to the one after him, but the one after that.
It's very hard to not be inspired by or influenced by him and his music. Steve's really changed my sense of the kind of emotional impact that any music could have.